Okay, welcome everybody to the Road to Retirement. My name is Chris Anselmo. I'm here with my co-host Tony Shore. Welcome back to the show. How you been, Tony?
I've been good. I've had a crazy busy week though. My son helping him get ready to move to grad school
Wow.
in he's going to Carroll University. They have a grad med school there. He's going to be a physician's assistant.
Wow.
And we're excited about that, but helping him get ready to move, him and his wife. He just got married a few weeks ago. So
Wow.
it's been crazy busy and trying to, figure out how to get the yard ready for spring and do all that. So I've been busy. How about you? What's going on?
Been busy after tax season. We're still calendar's still full, which is good, and starting to play a little golf now that the weather finally broke. So
yeah.
So tonight's golf league. So but everything's good except the economy. So I thought
it is crazy
Yeah,
right
so
now.
today I thought we'd talk about inflation, what causes it, what we can expect to see, and the pure economics of things are, gas prices have gone up, and that's I hate to say it's self-imposed, and we could probably do something about it if we wanted to, but the issue with gas prices is not only gas. Everybody sees that you're paying $4 a gallon or so at the pump,
Yeah.
but it affects the cost of goods because all the product has to get from the source to the stores, right? And if
Yep.
gas prices are up, then transportation costs are up, so prices have to go up, and so it's just a snowballing effect. Anytime you change gas prices, they did talk about maybe. Temporarily taking some of the federal gas tax off the I'm like, well, why don't you just open the pipelines? But everybody in the country except the administration right now is saying to open the pipelines. But
Yeah.
so gas affects everything, and then as they raise interest rates, several things happen. First of all, when interest rates are really low, like bank interest rates and CD rates and checking savings are really low, what happens is um, people who are traditional savers in the banks, for years said, look, I'm not earning anything. I might as well take a shot in the stock market. So
Right.
they either put their money directly in the market or they buy like indexed annuities or stuff like that
Yeah.
so that maybe they could participate in the gains. So all that money flooded into the market, and the market's done well over the last 10 years. And now if they keep raising interest rates and bank rates go up, then the people are like, well, I can get my 3, 4, or 5% at the bank, and they pull money out of the stock market. So it's a double
Sure.
whammy. Now the other thing it affects is you will see a pullback in the market because of people just like if I could get 3% at the bank, I don't need to take risk, right? So they'll
Right.
just take money out. So we'll see some of that. We'll also see because rates go up at the banks, also then mortgage rates have to go up, right? The banks can't pay you 3% on your CD and still loan money out at 3%. So
True.
mortgage rates will go up, and as mortgage rates go up, we saw in the economy that when mortgage rates are really low, that houses were flying off the shelves, right? And people were paying more than the asking price. So you have
Crazy money for
yeah,
houses.
yeah. So you have a $500,000 house. You were getting offers at $600,000, even though it probably wasn't worth that. And how that works behind the scenes is, Tony, you're going to get a 30-year mortgage, and they're only charging you 2.5%, and you only want to pay like maybe $2,100 a month. Well, when the rates are really low, like a 2.5%, you might be able to borrow $550,000.
Right.
So when rates go up, even if they went up to 5%, which is still good for a mortgage rate, right?
Yeah.
Now that same $2,100 that you're hoping to spend a month for your house, you could only buy a $400,000 house.
Right.
And if rates go up to 6, you can only buy a $350,000 house. So as interest rates go up, prices, because it's all about the flow of money, prices for houses will come down, and that might be a good thing right now because the houses are way overpriced right now. So
Way. It's crazy,
yeah,
isn't it?
I mean
Yeah.
they're staying on the market for hours. It
Yeah.
used to be 30, 60 days before you'd sell a house. Now people are upset if they're not sold in 2 or 3 days, and there's a bidding war, and it's primarily because interest rates are so low. I don't want to say it's realtor's fault, but they convince you that you can afford more house, right? So when you were only looking again, spend $2,100, half a dozen years ago, and you said, well, I can only buy a $350,000 house. Well, now I can afford a $500,000 house, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not sure you got any more house, but you may have paid more for the same house, right? So we've seen a lot of that go on, that people are, houses are sold before they even hit the market. So we'll see. We should see a pullback in that. And I think that's actually a good thing. I think
it's almost a bubble, isn't it? A
Yeah.
housing bubble
Yeah.
again, and it's going to burst, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, look, everyone loves to have a mortgage at 2.5%, but that's not, historically, that's not really realistic, right? I mean, mortgages, I remember when I bought my first house, ours was 9.25%, I think.
Yep.
And we thought we had a great rate.
Yeah.
So
I remember that. I remember those days. Yeah. Same with my wife and I too. I mean, it's the same thing. Yeah.
So, I think mortgages rates at 5-6% are probably more realistic and probably will help the market tame down a bit. But the concern always now, what do people do? Now they take money out of the market. Maybe they go back to the banks, or maybe they go to the insurance products that we use, because the insurance companies now, to stay competitive, are going to raise their rates. So, we saw index annuities where caps were 3%. We're seeing now some of them 6 and 7. So if you say, look, I could take no risk and maybe earn 7%. Yeah, okay, let's do that. So they'll pull money out of the market and put it in the insurance company's pockets, and that's probably a good thing, because I think the market was a bit high. But at the end of the day, the market is just a bunch of companies, right?
True.
And they're still the same companies, right? Coca-Cola is still Coca-Cola, right?
Yeah.
Google and Amazon, they're not going away, and Tesla's not going away, I don't think, even though. Well, I think Tesla will. It'll do fine for a while, but as all the other manufacturers flood the market with electric cars, they're not going to be as they're not going to be the stalwart that they are right now, right? Because you have an electric car, right?
Yep, I do. I have a Chevy Volt. So it's still got a gas motor in the Volt, but it is a plug-in electric, and it runs mostly off electric. So, yeah, I mean, Tesla, they could come back too. Sure. Elon, the money he spent might just be a hiccup, and the market overall is so down this year. But again, it was up so high that everybody said it would probably make an adjustment. So
look, you got to take the sour with the sweet, right? I mean, the market can't just continue to go up forever. Gradually, but it's not, it's not going to go up 15-20% every year. It's just unrealistic.
No.
So, we are paying more for goods. And when I hear it from clients, I hear it from people I have breakfast with, gas. I just saw gas prices today were like $4.20. And this is like the highest they've ever been in history. And unfortunately, a lot of it's self-imposed. I think if they open the pipelines, maybe we'd get it back down into the 3s for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny how inflation does affect the stock market. Of course, everything these days can, or at least some of the talking heads. It's the CNBC headline this morning, as of the recording of the show, was stock futures head lower as relentless selling continues on Wall Street from inflation fears.
Yeah. So the same thing we talked about is that people are going to pull money out of the market, because as the Fed raises interest rates, now their local banks paying them 2 or 3, and a lot of people are okay with 2 or 3% on their safe money. So people should stay the course if they have the time horizon, but then we have people who are headed into retirement or in retirement. So, what do we do about inflation? Obviously, when you put together a plan, Chris, for your clients, I'm sure our listeners are like, well, what can be done? I know for your clients, your plan includes inflation in the plan, and you make adjustments on a quarterly or yearly basis as needed to adjust for it as well, right? We do. And it first starts with your risk tolerance, right? So we really have to. I was talking to a lady the other day. She says, look, I've been with Vanguard or Wells Fargo for 20, 30 years. Everything's been good. I'm like, yeah, but you're not 20 or 30 years younger. You need to at least look at it. It might still be good, but if you don't, you have to at least look at it and say, hey, I don't really want to take that much risk anymore. I'm 75 years old. What could we do? Maybe we just reposition some stuff. And I'm still a believer in just buy quality. By the stalwarts of the industries. They're not going to, like, if they all have bad years, everyone's having a bad year, right? So you're going to, get the Sherwin-Williams of the world. You look at the big companies, probably even the top 100 of the S&P. That would be a good fit. And dividend paying companies, because dividend paying companies are usually well-seasoned companies, and they have strong balance sheets, and they have strong market shares. So we really want, if you need to drive some income, we will look for dividend paying stocks. But most of our clients, they don't, good and bad, they don't really need to use their market to drive money, right? A lot of them have good pensions or Social Security, or they have money in the bank. So they, maybe they're only looking for, $500,000-$600,000 a month to pull off their investments. They're not looking, for $5,000-$10,000 a month to pull off their investments. So that's really,
you meant $5,000 or $6,000 a month, not $500,000 or $600,000.
Right. So they, every scenario is different, right, Tony? If you come in and say, look, all my needs I'm covering all my bills, I don't really need a lot of extra money, then we can position your assets a little safer, because you're not trying to drive income or growth too much. But if you come in and say, look, I need my investments to generate $10,000 a month, well, then you got to get aggressive. But then if you're going to get aggressive, you have to realize that you have a chance of losing money too, right? So, so my daughter, God bless her, a few years ago, she goes, Dad, you got anything that's like really safe that can pay me like 20% a year? Yeah, I got a 6-mile line out my door if I had one of those, right? But
that's what we all want.
Yeah,
I mean, she just wants what everyone else wants, right?
I want safety and a lot of returns. So
but I like what you said there. The solution is not have everything in the market that you're going to need in retirement.
So as and as the market pulls back, like the other day when the market dropped, 1,000 points, we bought in, right? So, but the issue there is you have to have money on the sidelines to buy in. I mean, if you have all your money in the market, you don't have anything else to buy in with. So when the market drops, you don't have the opportunity to take advantage of the drop. So, most of our clients don't have everything in. We instruct them, like, you need to have a safety net, and everyone's safety net's, different. It could be 20,000, it could be 30,000, some could be 100,000. So whatever your safety net is, you feel comfortable with, that's what you want to have. Because I really don't want to take money out of the market when the market's going down. So when the market's going down, you should be buying in. And when the market's really high, you should be taking money out of the market to build up your safety net. So,
makes sense.
Yeah. So,
except most people end up doing the opposite. And when we hit times like this with high inflation and market volatility, people get emotional. And,
the pure economics are right. You're supposed to buy low and sell high, but people don't. People act emotionally, like you said, and they tend to buy high and sell low, right? So, the hot stock, everyone's jumping in on XYZ stock. I'm going to get in, and it's about it's up on the roller coaster, about ready to go over the hill, and they get at the top of the roller coaster, and then it goes down, and then they're like, oh, I can't do this anymore, and so they sell at the bottom of the roller coster, But I think that's where
out on the upswing then.
And I think that's where, us professionals come in. Our job really is to hold your hand while the market's volatile. Like when the market's going up, my phone doesn't ring that much.
Right.
I mean, everything's rosy. They don't need me. But times like this, when markets are going down, we just got to be cautious that people don't get emotional and sell when they probably shouldn't sell.
Sure.
It'll recover. Inflation will eventually work itself out, and usually inflation's 2 or 3% a year. Right now, it's been pretty high. It's been, I think, last month was like 8%.
They just announced the latest figure, 8.3.
Yeah. So I've been getting a few calls for people. What about I bonds? I bonds are inflation adjusted bonds from the federal government. And the current rate last time I looked was like 9.2%. So people are like, oh, let's jump on these government bonds for 9.2%. And a couple things that I realize is, one, that's only for 6 months. And then it goes back to the flat rate. So basically it's an interest rate. It's an inflation adjusted interest rate plus the flat rate. The flat rate right now is 0.
Hmm.
and the bonds
So
and the bonds are 30 years. So if you want to get out early, I think in the first 5 years, you pay a penalty. You have to pay some of the interest back, and
not so good. You have to look at the whole
yeah,
picture with
and
those.
you can only buy $10,000 a year. So I know they hear it at their coffee
Very
club.
limiting.
Yeah, they hear. I got 3 or 4 calls last week that they hear it at their coffee club. Oh, everyone's buying I bonds. I'm like, slow down, you know, because because most people, as soon as it drops to zero, they want out, right? And then they want out, and there's gonna be a penalty to get out. And so, I think, the government's not gonna borrow money from you at 9% a year, right?
Yeah.
Right, forever, right? So, so the 9% is a teaser rate, right, just to get you involved. Just like insurance companies do that too. They have products where they throw a bonus on it up front.
10%.
Yeah, but at the end of the term, it all works out. Like they might give you 10% up front, but then the rest of the term they give you 2, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the 10 years, they're paying you about the same amount of interest as they would have if they would have just gave you a 4% up front, right? So
Yeah.
so, they're not building products. Insurance companies aren't going to build products where they lose money and intentionally, and either are banks or either is the government. So you just got to be wise about it.
You have to be careful, especially with bonds right now.
Yeah.
As interest rates rise, and again, the Fed, raised the interest rates 0.5%. So bond values dropped. Traditional bonds,
Right.
especially, are
Yeah.
just in the tank. So, like you
Yeah.
said, the I bonds, it's like the bottom is zero. The floor, it's at zero. So
Right. So the other thing with long-term bonds, how they get affected by rates is as interest rates go. So if you're in a bond that's paying, would be nice if you're in a bond paying 3%. As interest rates go up, your bond is not as desirable anymore because let's say they went up to 6%. I could just go buy. I could pay half the amount of money and get a 6% bond and get the same kind of return. So
yeah,
interest rates have been so low so long that long-term bonds, as these interest rates go up, are getting crushed. Now, short-term bonds, 3-month bonds, and things like that aren't affected as much as long-term bonds. But if you bought a long-term bond and was paying 0.5%, and rates go up to 3, you're going to get crushed, right?
Yeah.
So we use the insurance companies as alternative to the bonds because they were paying interest rates based on the stock market, and the stock market has done really well in the last 15 years or so. So they've got reasonable interest rates. You're never going to get rich in it, but you're going to get a reasonable rate of return. And what was your alternative? The banks are paying nothing. I mean, literally nothing.
And some of those insurance products, they limit the downside, and sometimes there is no downside as far as if the market drops 10%, you don't lose any. You don't lose.
Yeah, because those type of products, it's kind of like a CD at a bank. You give the local bank your money. What they do with it is whatever they do with it. They pay employees, they loan out mortgages, they invest the money. I don't say you don't care, but you're not affected if they make bad decisions and the money and they lose money on the money. They're still paying your interest rate because you're not buying into the bank. You're not becoming their partner. You're not invested in their bank. Same thing when you buy one of those index annuities. Let's say you buy from XYZ insurance company. Well, you're not actually buying any of the XYZ insurance company, and you're not actually putting money in the market. You're loaning them money. They're going to do whatever they need to do with it to make money, and they're just paying you interest. Now, your interest might be based on the market, but at the end of the day, if the market goes down, you don't lose anything because you're not in.
Yeah.
So you're not going to necessarily hit home runs in those products because people aren't going to borrow at 10%. Just not going to happen, right?
No.
So even though I don't, what all the pundits out there say that, and generally the index annuities probably over the life of the annuity average 2 to 6%. But when banks are paying nothing, that's a lot. So
yeah, I mean, 3%, just as an example, if you got 3%, that would be way more than you're going to get out of a CD at a bank.
It's probably 10 times what you were getting, right? So, but we have seen those what we call cap rates go up in the last month or two. A year ago they were 3, and now we've seen some 6.5. I think one of them I saw 6.5.
Yeah.
So because as interest rates go up, those insurance companies are competing for your money, so they have to raise their interest rates too, or you're going to take your money somewhere else. So
right.
So actually, it's probably a good time to, if you can, want to get into those products because the cap rates are pretty high. So,
Sure.
and you
And
can
that's
lock
another
that.
hedge against inflation would be something like a fixed index type
Right.
insurance product.
So you're not taking a lot of risk. Buy a quality, you're not buying the company, but
Right.
invest with a quality company. You want A-rated carriers are better probably. You don't. The D-rated carrier might give you more interest, but you're taking more risk that carrier could go under.
Sure.
And it really hasn't happened. We haven't seen that in years. I can't remember the last time. Usually, insurance companies buy other insurance companies, but
Yeah.
so that's really hasn't been a risk. The banks have always relied on FDIC insurance as their tickets for people that say, look, we're covered.
Yeah.
Most states, I know here in Ohio, we have something called the Ohio Guarantee Fund, which is basically a fund that all the insurance companies pay into over the course of the year based on the revenues. In case there was a company that went out of business, there would be some coverage. Here it's $250,000 per account per company. So similar to FDIC insurance. It's not FDIC insurance, but similar. So people
Sure.
do have some safety net there.
Yeah. So, well, I think that's really good. And before we go, we need to tell our listeners, don't try to go it alone. When you've got market volatility, when you've got inflation that's at 8.3% and rising, they need to get a hold of you and set up a complimentary strategy session, right?
Yeah. So our number there is on the bottom, 440-886-3550. And there's our website, brooksidetax.com. Either way, get a hold of us. But, don't go at this alone. I mean, we do this every day. So, go to if it's not us, get to a professional that does this every day.
Sure.
And go to a place that isn't just a one-trick pony. Like their own, like we talked about this.
If they're just trying to sell you insurance,
yeah.
don't go there. If they're just trying to invest all your money in the market,
Right.
don't go there.
Yeah. You need, you need somewhere that can give you everything that you could use. If you go to the apple orchard, you're only getting apples, right? So, and you might need more than apples. So, so we look forward to you call in. We also wrote some books. We probably have half a dozen books out there now. So if you want one of our books when you call in, just let us know. I'll autograph it and get it out to you. And
awesome.
Show's over almost, right? So,
well, yeah, pick up the phone. Again, that number is 440-886-3550. For those that are watching the podcast on YouTube, I'll give the number again, 440-886-3550. Chris, I think it's great that you're offering a complimentary book, the strategy session. There's no cost or obligation.
Yeah.
And great show. I mean, obviously, this is something that has people concerned in rising inflation.
It's going to be probably here for a while until I don't want to get political until we get changes in the administration. But there's things the administration could do, but right now I guess for some reason they don't want to do them, even though 98% of the people want it done. But we'll end there. So I don't want to get into political stuff. So. All right, Tony, we'll see you next week.
All right. And that does it for today's episode of The Road to Retirement with our host, Chris Anselmo. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Take care.